Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll be showing you how to airbrush with contrast paint for the very first time. I thought it'd be cool to try out the new contrast Imperial fist colour, and I've got an Imperial fist army, 1,000 points that I'm getting ready to play with, but also some great models from Anvil Industry, so they're going to be perfect for this colour. In this video, I'll show you how I used a white Zenithal prime over a pink primer and then contrast paint through an airbrush. Now, this is the first time I've used contrast paint in an airbrush, but I'm really happy with the result, and I think I've dialed it right down to a great recipe that I'll share with you as we work our way through the video. Our main subjects for the video will be Tor Garadon and the Imperial fists, and some great hazmat operatives from Anvil Industry. I've been experimenting a little bit with this yellow paint, so I'll go through some of the comparisons I've done on the models, where one I went with a grey undercoat with then a purple and a white Zenithal. Some I've airbrushed straight over the pure white Scar Spray primer, others I've painted the contrast on by hand, and finally the others that I've gone through all the stages using just the airbrush. So here's Tor Garadon, all built, an awesome model, and if you want to check out the unboxing to see him in more detail, then that video is up on the channel already, and this is the effect that we're going to be going with as we work through the video to get that white Zenithal over the pink primer. Here's one of the hazmat operatives that will be painted up in the video, and a huge thank you to Anvil Industry for sending these models and sponsoring today's video. Now, if you want to check out these proxies, which are great for Games Workshop, or a lot of people have been commenting on how they'll fit right in with Zona Alpha, so I think they'll be perfect for that. But two brilliant sets of miniatures that I went into lots of detail about, so I can highly recommend going to check out that channel, and I'll also put links down in the description and the comments below to Anvil Industry website. They cover a huge range of models in all different genres, but their regiments and infantry line is huge, and they've got tons of ways you can put together your own models for different games and different missions that you want to embark on, and it's a really great way where you can customize them and have them exactly how you want them, with the weapons, torsos, heads and much more. So thanks again to Anvil Industry, and it would be awesome if you checked out their website and watched that previous video to see just how cool these miniatures really are. Right, let's get started with the airbrushing. So the first colour is going to be pink, and I did the pink all over as a primer. Then it's a white Zenithal prime spraying directly down onto the model, and then finally I used the yellow contrast, the Imperial fist colour. It's really important to do thin layers of the pink and the white, and then, more importantly than that, wait 24 hours before you put the contrast paint or any other coats over it. The primer I used was a white primer, 74.640 Mecha primer by Vallejo, and this comes in a 200ml bottle. Now, I mixed in a bit of contrast Doomfire magenta to get the pink, and it worked really well. It's set lovely, and yeah, it's worked out a treat. So I'd mixed them in a bottle top. I just poured in some of the white and then used one of these little pipettes to get some of the contrast out, and I found that was the best method. So here's what it looks like once you've put that primer on. I'll show you how I did the Zenithal in a second. So you can see from underneath, you're getting a lot of that pink coming through, but from the top, the models are much more white. And so as I turn it, you can see it changes. Now, when we put yellow over this pink and white, that's going to give us a really nice yellow and orangey colour, with the orange representing the shadows. So you can see under the Dreadnought here, I've gone a lot deeper with the pink, but from the top, it's looking really white. I'm concentrating on the contrast paint here with the airbrush for this video, but I'll do another video where I talk in detail about Zenithal priming, and there's a few ways to do it. You can see with my Ogre here, I've gone with one coat of black to begin with, and I've done this all over the model from all different directions. Once that dried, I've gone for a grey tone, and I'm doing this from a 45-degree angle all around the model. And then finally, going right down from above the model, I'm doing a white, and that's the main highlight for the model then. But with Tor Garadon and the rest of the models here, I've just gone pink, and then with a Zenithal of white coming down from above. Now I'll show you how I did the contrast paint through the airbrush. So with a bit of trial and error, it worked out to be half an airbrush paint cup of the Imperial Fist contrast paint, and then I added 20 drops of airbrush thinner and 20 drops of flow improver. Now that seems quite a lot, but it got a really nice consistency, and once I got that right, it didn't clog the airbrush once. The airbrush I used was the Infinity CR+, and I'll be going into more videos of airbrushing, so I'll cover that in great detail later on. But here's the cup that's attached to it, and so I took the contrast Imperial Fist, used another pipette, and then got that out of there and filled it halfway that way. So I made sure I got half the volume, so not necessarily halfway up the cup, but half the volume of the cup. Then I used the Vallejo airbrush thinner and the Vallejo airbrush flow improver. These come in 200 milliliter bottles, and so yeah, these are really important, make a huge difference, and just follow the instructions on each of the bottles. Once the yellow paint was in the cup, I then just used some smaller bottles that I decanted those two larger ones into, and just made sure I measured 20 drops of each accurately into the paint cup. These little pipette bottles are really handy if you can get hold of them, so you can really get a nice accurate measurement. So I dropped in 20 again, and then I use an old brush just to mix it up. Now you could mix this paint in a little pot and add the thinner and the improver into that, and mix it and then pour it into the paint cup, but I just find it works really well like this, and as long as you don't put too much of the main colour in there, you've got plenty of room to mix it around. So give it a really good thorough stir though, so it's all well combined. With that mixed together, I was ready to start spraying, so I set my airbrush to 26 psi. That converts to 1.8 bar if you use a different way of measuring where you are. Let's start with Tor Garadon. So he's all primed up with the pink and the white Zenithal. Now it's time for the yellow. So I always do a little test spray onto some paper first and make sure it's coming out nice and smooth. And I'm taking my time here, and I'm going for really thin layers. I've used the dial at the back of the airbrush so that not too much paint is going to come out, so I don't have to worry about adjusting that as I go. It's going to be a constant amount of air pressure and a constant amount of paint coming out. And so I work my way around, building up those layers. Again, if I'm not sure it's coming out enough, I'll just test it on the paper again and then come back to the model when I'm happy. One thing I'm trying to do is keep a constant airflow. So even when I'm not letting paint come out of the airbrush, I'm still letting the air come out, and that really helps to stop your airbrush from clogging up. So I'm kind of keeping that air pressure coming all the time, and then when I want paint to come out, I pull it back. And so that's a really great tip that I found on another video when I was learning a few weeks ago now. And so yeah, that really helped me and stopped clogging with all different paints, and it certainly worked for this contrast too. And so again, I'm just building up in thin layers, trying to move the model as much as I can rather than the airbrush, and so that gives me a lot more control. And then what I'm trying to do is let the air also help dry the paint if too much comes out onto one section. So again, keeping that air pressure constant, I'm using that air to help me to get the paint to dry a little bit quicker, and then by the time I come back round to that section of the model, then it's pretty much dry and ready for another coat. So that's a really nice tip as well. Use the air from the airbrush to help your paint to dry. I really took my time with Tor Garadon. He's the main man for the Imperial Fist army I'm building. And some of the others I let the paint come out a little bit quicker, but with him I used that dial at the back of the airbrush to make sure it was very thin and only a small amount of paint, and just built those layers up, taking my time, being very patient, and I was really happy with the result. It came out really smooth, as you'll see in the pictures later on. So here's the model now from Anvil Industry, and this is coated with just the white scar spray can this time. So I'm trying something different here, and I wanted to see how that would work. Now I was a bit disappointed with the white scar. I've left it for a couple of weeks since I used it last time, followed all the instructions again, but it came out a little bit chalky, so just watch out for that. Also, someone commented a couple of days ago that happened to them. So yeah, if you're using white scar, just be aware of that. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with that because the first time I used it I was really happy, really smooth, and obviously I put it out in a video how well it was, but this time round not so good. But the contrast method over the top worked a treat here, and you can see just how quick it was to paint this Anvil Industry model. I used the same technique on the vehicles too, coated it in pink, Zenithal of white, and now I'm going to go all over this with the yellow. So now I'm not using the dial on the back of the airbrush, so I'm going to practice using it on the paper first, and I'm letting quite a lot of paint out now, but I'm holding my airbrush further back. And that's the trick with airbrushing, I think. Just getting the pressure right, so 26 is pretty much what I use most of the time, and then getting the amount of paint coming out and the distance you are away from the model you're painting right. And that's only going to come with practice. I found that just priming a couple of hundred models very slowly, experimenting and getting used to it was a really good way to get some nice control and learn how the airbrush worked. And then I just applied what I learned through that to add in colours then, and now trying something new with the contrast paints is really fun. But having the airbrush makes things really fast. It really speeds up the process. It took me about 5 hours all up to prime, Zenithal, and then colour 1 to 1,500 points of Imperial fists and those 5 hazmat operatives too. So very quick to do, and you get some really nice smooth finishes too. And that's all there is to it. This contrast paint came out really nice with the airbrush. Once I got that recipe right, I was really happy. I'll do another video on Zenithal priming real soon, so you can get more information and see more models, big ones, small ones, all different sizes, being primed. I really didn't want an orange effect from this, so using that pink does take it down to like an orange colour, but it's not too strong. And so you can see here I've tried to photo underneath with some different light just to show you the strongest orange. But when you angle the camera or look down, which is what you'll be doing most of the time on the tabletop, you can see that it's yellow and a lot brighter. So that's more like the Imperial fist colour I was looking for. I love airbrushing vehicles. It's such a great way to paint them super fast. And here again you can see mostly yellow, but when we just come up from underneath you can see some of that orange coming through thanks to the pink underneath. Same on the Dreadnought here. Can't wait to play this guy. It's going to be really fun. From the top, nice and yellow, really rich, and those nice smooth panels from the effect. But underneath, you got a lot more of the orange colours coming through. And then you can see on the banner here, this guy looking great. This is going to be stunning. I can't wait to get all these painted. These are on top of my 1,000 points that I'll be using. Another captain. Here you can see how rich that colour is in the shadows. But again, from the top, nice and bright yellow. And I went through and in that 5 hours did all these models, so really quick, obviously waiting 24 hours after priming, but all up it took 5 hours. And you can see all my intercessors here. Same thing, when you look down, nice and bright, but when you look underneath, you get more of the shadow. So yeah, it does look really subtle, but well worth taking the time to do it. Eliminators, cannot wait to play those too. Got some plasmas lined up, so I thought I'd paint up as well. And then here's my like command squad with all the different special characters and things. The weapons I've just stuck with pink because I'll be going over with metallics later on. So there was no need to do the Zenithal prime on these or coat them in yellow. So just one prime coat of pink and they're good to go with the metallics. And finally, we've got the hazmat operatives from Anvil Industry. So the one on the left I did with a white prime of the spray can. And then I did a dry brush of the pink, but only going from underneath the model and up, so just in one stroke, and that's come out really nice, and I painted that completely finished so you can see just how cool these look when they're done. Then moving along, we've got the one on the left, which is white scar and then just primer. The one on the right has been primed with pink, then white, and then the contrast paint over the top, and that one's come out really nice. And I did the same on the one on the right here, just getting that nice subtle shadow coming through. And then the final character on the right hand side. Now I got this one wrong. I went with purple, but first of all I did a grey primer, then a purple sprayed from underneath, and then white from the top. And it just didn't work out. So I'm going to go back and redo this guy so he looks as good as the other ones. So yeah, don't use purple. It's got to be pink and white as I've gone through in the rest of the video. This is how we learn though, just trying new things, making mistakes, then correcting it and improving from there. So yeah, nothing wrong with making mistakes like this. If you do it, don't worry about it. I mean, it's no big deal. You can just move on and try something else next time. So there we go, that's my experience painting with the airbrush and contrast paint for the first time, and I'm really happy how it came out. It didn't pool at all, it didn't stain, and it gave a really nice smooth coverage, just building up those very thin layers. And I love using that pink coming through. If anything, I think I could have been a bit bolder with the pink to get some more defined shadows, but overall I'm happy for my first time trying this out, and I'll certainly be doing it again. If you're wondering how much of the contrast paint I use to paint that many models, here's how much is left. So just above the barcode, there's quite a bit of paint left. So yeah, quite frugal with it really, doing it this method. You're not using too much at all. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll certainly be doing lots more airbrush videos. I'll be doing one on the airbrush itself, how to clean it, and then I'll be doing another one on Zenithal priming as well. And then after that, lots more as I work through Warcry terrain and loads more models. And I've also got a lot more from Anvil Industry to paint up too. I'll put that link in the description below and in the comments to Anvil Industry, so if you want to pick up any of these models or have a look at their website, I can highly recommend it. That link's down below, and then you can find out all the prices and everything for the different models. I'll also put a link to Firestorm Games in case you wanted to pick up Tor Garadon for your collection or any of the other Space Marines you've seen featured in the video. That link's down there, but I've also got a special code they sent me, and if you use that before the end of the month, you can save an additional 5% on the regular up to 20% that they offer on all your hobby items. So a really great way to save a bit of extra money and get in before the end of the month with that. A big thanks to Anvil Industry for sponsoring today's video, and a huge thank you to you for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. I really had fun painting these up and making the video. Can't wait to do more along this theme. So thanks again for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and don't forget to hit that notification bell too to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make these daily videos possible, and if you're interested in joining the community, it'd be awesome to see you there, and I'll put a link for that in the description down below.